Hello and welcome back to Bearded Heretics YouTube. Um, this is going to be a bit of a conversation. We haven't got anything to react to today. No drama. Drama, I should say, because it's not actually drama what I reacted to before. But anyway, no, today we're going to have a conversation about something that really kind of I'm passionate about, and I think that needs to be discussed more within the atheist community, and that's death. So that is a trigger warning if you are triggered by conversations around death or anything like that. Then please do see this as a warning. I wouldn't be offended if you click off now. That's fine. Do what keeps you safe. That's the most important thing. But for those of you who are staying with me to on this journey, on this discussion, you might not know, but I'm currently writing a book. This is the first manuscript. I need some things to tighten up. I need to add some bits, and I'll hopefully have it out by the end of the year. But we'll see. But this book is kind of the main focus is around bereavement and death. That is one of the main things that we discuss, or I discuss in it. And that's because when I was 19, my dad passed away, and it was at that point that I entrenched my atheist beliefs. I thought there couldn't be a God, and I didn't want to lie to myself about whether my dad was around, in some form, whether he was there as a ghost or there as a spirit in heaven or anything like that. I didn't want to make those assumptions because I didn't want to lie to myself because I didn't really believe it. It would have just been me doing it as a type of coping strategy. So, and I am aware before we carry on that there are some atheists that would believe in an afterlife, that could believe in an afterlife. I'm aware that that's possible, but I feel like the vast majority of people would say that there is nothing after death. The vast majority of atheists would say, regardless of the definition you're using, would say that there is nothing after you die. You just kind of die and that's it. Nothing after it. So, and that's my view, But the thing that I haven't seen atheists talk about much is the implications of that, because theists and people that believe in afterlives have this comfort. They have this comforting feeling that their loved ones are still around in some capacity, that they'll be there for them in times of trouble. They'll give them signs, they'll give them guidance, or at the very least, they'll be there after you die to join them. You'll see your family after you. That's a comfort. It's something that people take pride in, or not pride, but comfort in. People find that helps them with their grief, right? And as an atheist, you don't have that. They're gone forever, and that's tough. And some of the conversations I've had with atheists is a complete denial of that complete denial that is actually something really complex, really painful, and quite traumatizing, And I think that needs addressing. We need to discuss that more often. We need to discuss how do we cope with death without an afterlife as a comforting tool. And I don't think it's impossible. I think it's very possible, actually. We just need to be educated in how coping strategies work. Okay. Now, my book has an entire chapter about death, and I'm going to kind of draw some of the ideas out of it. And if you like the stuff that I'm talking about, if you think it's helpful or useful, then please, one, share the video, because these kind of videos don't actually get much natural traffic. So it would be good for you to share it to people that you think would benefit from it, or people that you think would find it interesting, because then it will gain some traction. Yeah. So that would be actually really helpful, and I'm not begging for it. If you don't want to share it, that's fine. But it would be helpful if you did. But also, if the book does come out and you are interested, then buying the book it sounds like I'm begging for stuff now, but it would be good, because it will have an expansion of the ideas that I'm going to be talking about in this chat. Yeah, so those two things. Now, I don't even know if the book's going to get published, so it might just put it as an ebook for free at some point if I can't find a publisher. It doesn't matter, whatever. Um, so I think the first kind of idea I talk about is about valuing life. Now, this kind of goes into the idea of why we don't kill each other. Why don't we kill each other? Why are atheists not actually murderers? This whole idea that Jordan Peterson put forward, that we would kill people for the betterment of society or whatever, which is complete bollocks. Why wouldn't we do that? And I think that there is a great passage from a book called Interview with the Vampire. You may have seen the film, but I don't think this quote is in the film, where the character Louis has a thought, and this thought is, and what constitutes evil, real evil, is the taking of a single human life. Whether a man will die tomorrow or the day after or eventually, it doesn't matter. Because if God does not exist, then life, every second of it, is all we have. Now, that to me is the epitome of how I think as an atheist. If God doesn't exist, then this life is it. And that's the same thing for everyone else in the world. So we should value our own lives and we should value the lives of others, because it's the only time they're going to have to get an experience. It's the only chance that they'll have to actually experience the universe in the way that we experience it. And to take that from somebody is taking everything from somebody. And I think that this goes back to another quote that's by a philosopher called Julian Baggini, where he talks about, and this is in the Short History of Truth, that a psychopath, and this is like kind of a general understanding of a psychopath. A psychopath doesn't kill because he's lacks feeling. Sorry. A psychopath lacks empathy. Not how am I ruining this so badly? I've said it so many times. Psychopath lacks empathy, not rationality. That's it. That's a not the full quote, I think. But the idea is that a psychopath does what they do because they lack that care for other person. They lack the ability to put themselves in someone else's shoes and understand how that person's feeling, and or they don't care about how that person's feeling, which is slightly different. But the idea is that you can be as rational as you like, but if you don't have empathy for other people, you won't see the worth in them. Yeah, you won't see that their life is all they have, and that's it. And if we take that away, then we're taking everything away from that individual. So I think that valuing life is a really key part of being an atheist, and I think that there's some people that kind of rationalize it and go like, "Oh, I'm a moral nihilist. There's nothing really that's wrong, or whatever. We only assign values to things." Whatever, you can have that belief, but empathy is an inbuilt evolutionary process. It's the reason that we don't want to harm other people, and I think it's absolutely key to this. Yeah. So valuing lives helps us to have more fulfilling interactions with other people, but then that also means that we're hurt more when they die. Yeah. Especially if we think that that's the very end. We've completely lost something. Something is completely gone. And I think that there are ways of tackling bereavement. And the first thing to do is to make sure you're kind of psychologically okay, because bereavement is a process that you need to go through. So you're going to be upset, you're going to be distracted, you're going to be paralyzed in a lot of ways. But if you're not looking after the rest of your mental health, then it can start to kind of become a hole that you get yourself into, rather than it being a process that you go through. Yeah, no one's expecting you to be, or people shouldn't be expecting you to be 100%, and grief can take ages to go through, and that's okay. But doing things to actively try and stabilize your mental health, just stabilize it, not try and get yourself to being happy again, because that's probably not going to happen, is really important. You need to get those coping strategies in there. First thing I would say is routine is a really, really, really key one. Make sure your sleep is so 3 things that will really affect your mental health are sleep, exercise, and diet. Those 3 things can really make your mental health deteriorate. So trying to get those things into a routine is really important. And exercise doesn't have to be going to a gym. It could be going for a 20-minute walk. Yeah. And if you've got nature near you, that's even better. Go for a 20-minute walk in nature. Get a routine down. Wake up at the same time every morning. Go to bed at the same time every evening. Have the lunchtime meals, and all that's to do is it takes the pressure off of your mind to be planning things, because you've already got things planned, right? So you don't have to worry about when dinner time is or wherever, because you've done that. And it might even be worth, making sure that you've got meals planned, or that you've already batch cooked a bunch of food, and that you can just stick it in the microwave. So you do one day where you just batch cook a bunch of, like, I don't know, curry or something like that, and then you just need to microwave it up. That's really key. It simplifies your life to a point where your mental faculties can start to process that grief in a way that's useful for you. So you're taking away the exertion that would normally be around during that period of your life, right? The exercise stimulates hormones and neurotransmitters, which are good for your brain, and make you feel a little bit better. And it also means that you're getting outside, you're getting into nature, you're getting fresh air, which is always good. So that's a key one. And the sleep is really important, because you're going to find it hard to sleep. So if you give yourself set times to go to sleep and wake up, then you're getting yourself into a really healthy pattern. Look up sleep hygiene tips. So that would be stuff like not looking at a screen half an hour before you go to sleep, making sure you have a wind down routine for about half an hour, having a snack before you go to bed and a drink before you go to bed and by your bed, making sure the temperature in the room is correct, and all of that stuff. If you can't sleep, don't force yourself to. Get up, do something that's non-stimulating, such as reading a trashy book that you don't really care about, no screens, and then go back to bed when you feel tired again. Yeah, so those are the key sleep hygiene tips. But sleep is really important, because the more tired you are, the less your mind is able to process information, and you'll end up kind of continuing your trauma for a long period of time. This processing stuff, it sounds a bit silly, but it is what your brain's doing when you're going through grief. It's trying to get around the idea of such an extreme loss and trauma. Yeah, it's your body trying to heal itself. Going through grief is your body trying to heal itself. And oftentimes we try and suppress it really badly so that we can continue with our life. And then it comes up later on in our life in different moments. Yeah, so we need to not suppress it. We need to experience grief. Yeah, and that doesn't mean stopping everything in your life. It just means that when you're feeling it, you allow yourself to feel those emotions. Yeah, because otherwise you'll prolong that process. And realizing things won't get easier per se. You'll still be upset, but things will be you'll be able to cope with it more. Yeah, so it's not getting over it, it's just coping with it, coping with the idea of it, getting used to that idea that that person is gone. So that's the very basics, the absolute very basics. However, there are a few more things I would recommend personally, and that is doing meaningful activities. So don't stop doing meaningful activities. So that could be spending time with your friends. Try to avoid avoiding. Because what happens with that is that you get entrenched into that process. It becomes, your mind says, "Oh, I'm going to get stressed out in this," and you might get stressed out. You might need to leave, but keep trying, because if you end up just avoiding situations, then you'll just stay avoiding situations, and that's a good way of kind of increasing your stress when you go to the next one. Yeah. You don't have to do anything too stressful. Certainly don't do anything that will re-traumatize you, like initially doing stuff that you would have done with that individual. That can be good later on in the process, but doing it straight away can actually kind of just bring back those feelings of loss and become quite overwhelming. So you're trying to reduce the amount you're overwhelmed and coping. Yeah. I am a big advocate for something called the first aid kit from emotions. And if anyone knows any DBT, you might have heard of this. DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy. But this is something that you should do prior to any kind of trauma. You should just have one of these. It's very good. So you have a box or something, something that has stuff in it, like a shoebox or something like that, and you have items that relate to 5 different areas within that box. So the first thing is distraction. So what can I do to distract myself? Can I do something nice for someone else? Can I listen to an audio book? Can I do some like fidgeting with a like one of those fidget things or a stress ball? Is there any sensations that I can use to distract myself? Can I count back from 10? So you might have a stress ball in your box, for instance, or like a piece of paper that says count back from 10. Self-soothing, so focusing on the 5 senses. So what satisfies me? So this is about satisfaction. So what satisfies me to look at? What satisfies me to taste? Is there any comforting touches that I have? Is there any comforting sounds that I have? Whale sounds, rain sounds, lo-fi hip hop, any of that stuff. You know, if it soothes you, use it, and it's focusing on those 5 senses. Yeah, you're trying to get a positive emotional response from the thing that you're using. Improving the moment. So you can do this in your mind, imagery, but I would say it's probably better to do it with something. So could have positive affirmations. What reasons do I have to care? Relaxation, maybe a bath with candles. You can have some candles in your box, or your favorite movie, or your favorite book of short stories, or something. Focusing on one thing in the moment that you enjoy. So it might be that you have a plant, and you focus on that plant for a bit. You maybe give it some tender, loving care. Vacation, and this doesn't mean going on holiday. This could be a 20-minute break into nature or something like that. Leaving the situation for a bit. Excuse my cough. And distress tolerance. So how do I tolerate distress? Breathing deeply. Maybe you got a punching bag. Maybe you need to do some safe harm techniques, so holding ice cubes or pinging an elastic band. It could be that you need these soothing things that we talked about earlier. And the final one is a crisis plan. If you go into crisis, you need to have the numbers of the people you're going to call in now, whether it's a crisis helpline or family or friends. Just have those numbers in there. I would say if you're putting any person that's personal in there, that's not a professional, ask their permission first, because they need to know that you're going to be in. They're going to be in your box, and you're going to call them when you're having a crisis. So that's the first aid kit for emotions, and I would absolutely 100% make one of those prior to anything. Make one of those, and it doesn't just have to be about bereavement. It can be about anything. If you just struggle with your emotions, that's a really good tool. So the other thing I think, which is really important, and this is the final thing, I guess, which is about bereavement, is rituals. And I think this ties more into the atheism stuff, okay? Because as atheists, we find rituals kind of silly. In religious land, rituals serve a purpose. Weddings, you become tied to that individual through God. God ties you both. In a funeral, you're read your rites and you're sent to heaven, hopefully. You know, and that's the same with any kind of historical funeral service. There was rites that happened to help you get into the afterlife, the appropriate afterlife. And baptisms, you know, usually there is a naming of the baby and giving them the mark of Jesus and saving them essentially as early as possible. And obviously, so those, they serve purposes. They serve purposes for a reason other than just us doing them. There's a mystical, supernatural element to it. Yeah, it's not just marrying because it's a legal thing. It's marrying because so sorry. I'm gonna cough my lungs up. It's marrying because you're getting tied together through God. Yeah, rituals are really important. I would say, if we don't have rituals, then we are becoming robots. There's not much else to it. And I think the rituals can really help us to ground ourselves sometimes. They give us, we don't just always think rationally. Sometimes we think in abstract and metaphorical ways. And rituals are a metaphorical way of, for instance, like relieving our grief, right? So going to somebody's grave or celebrating their birthday or meeting your loved ones on the anniversary of their death, any of that is really important. Yeah, it's important that you select those days. I always take my dad's birthday and the day he passed away off work. And I do stuff on those days in memory of him. I don't have any belief that he's still around. I don't think he's going to see me celebrating his birthday. But it helps me because it's a memory thing for him. And it allows me to kind of connect to him even though he's not around anymore. Yeah. So I think it's really important to get rituals into your life. And they need to be personal to you because they're for your benefit. Yeah, remember, we're not necessarily thinking that the person is around anymore. So they're for your benefit. So try and do something that's fairly regularly, like maybe once a year, or even, if you need it, once every 6 months or every month, that will benefit you and make you feel better. Do not feel silly having conversations with your loved ones who have passed away. Yeah? It's not it's not silly. You can have those conversations. I think it's not irrational to want to communicate with them. And we can imagine what they'd say back to us. And that's not believing in the supernatural or anything like that, or that they can hear us or that they can communicate with us. But sometimes having conversations in our head with people that we love actually helps us to think about things in a different way because we understand what they would have said, the advice that they would have given. Yeah. So have those conversations. Have them out loud because then the words are real. Yeah, you're actually having that conversation. And you don't need to pretend that the person is still existing. You don't need to believe that the person still exists in some way. You can just do it. You can do it and know that they are probably not there. Yeah, that's fine. So I think that those are the main things I talk about in my book. There's obviously a lot more to it. I go into more depth, but I think that, look, I'm really sorry about the cough. I think it's from speaking too much. I'm drinking my coffee to make it settle down, but it won't. I think that atheists have a funny relationship with death because they almost don't want to admit that there's something that religion provides that atheism stops providing when you start being an atheist. But it's the case. And we need to be realistic about that, and we need to think those things through, and we need to find ways of coping that aren't based in an afterlife. And there's some examples. And the last thing I would say is find a community that understands you. Find a community that will tell you the things you need to hear. And that's why I'm a big advocate for the atheist community and the atheist community having more conversations about this, because people need to hear the right things. When someone's passed away, they need to hear the things that are going to matter to them and make them feel better about the situation. Yeah, and hearing, oh, they're looking over you, or they're in another life now, they're in a better place, you'll meet them when you die, that kind of stuff can be really painful. So if you're an atheist, open yourself up to the idea that someone might have those conversations with you, and open yourself up to the idea that you might need to have those conversations with other people. And try and avoid this. Atheists are only interact with each other because there's one thing that they have in common, because that's true, but that doesn't mean that we can't help each other out when people are struggling with death, because most of us don't believe in an afterlife. Yeah. And a community should be a source of comfort when things are going tough. So those are my thoughts. Please let me know how you found this video. And I think that if you have anything to add, or any thoughts about any thoughts about the content, then do let me know in the comments. If you've liked this video, give it a like, and I would say again, please just share it if you think that someone could do with it. Because as I say, these types of videos tend to not get so many views, and I actually personally think this is the more important type of video. So, okay. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you another time.